The case, Senator Judd Gregg, ranking member of the Budget Committee, member of the Banking Committee. Senator, good morning.
Carl, great to talk to you.
You really want to jump into this thicket?
No, actually, having listened to you this morning, I found it fascinating. I thought a couple of your guests were just really interesting. Mr. Egan there, his points I thought were right on.
Yeah.
I was very impressed.
What is your thinking on the case so far?
Well, I'm not really sure that we need to get into the case. I think that's really up to the SEC and Goldman and the other legal eagles that are going to be involved in this. I'm a little interested in the timing of this.
Could it really, Judd, could it be anything, honestly? I mean, can an administration tell the SEC, guys, this would be really good if you could do this before next week when it goes to the floor? That's impossible, isn't it?
Let's absolutely hope that that could not possibly happen, because it really would undermine the integrity of the SEC. And yet for it to come out at this point, just before the Senate moves to this bill, and really it's tangential to the bill itself in many ways, because the bill is talking about too big to fail, it's talking about derivatives, it's talking about consumer, it's talking about reorganizing the regulatory structure. This is a very, as I understand it, and I don't understand it that well, this is a very targeted issue on a specific action that one firm took. And the firms denied that there was anything wrong.
Judd, how much of the public knows that it's targeted? All they know is that Goldman Sachs caused a financial crisis now, and we need to rein these guys in. And you better vote for it, Mr. Republican, that is in a box. I mean, it puts these guys...
That's the big problem, Joe. The overreaction by Congress in the face of anecdotal evidence. And that happens all the time in the Congress. However, if we do it this time, if we overreact on this, we're going to fundamentally harm the ability of the guy on Main Street to get credit.
What's an overreaction?
Because we will reduce our credit markets and our viability of our capital markets.
Judd, what's an overreaction? Like an actual piece of proposed legislation that you think would do that?
The Kanjorski language in the House, which essentially says if you're too big, you're bad. It's not a question of whether you're risky.
Where the government can decide to go ahead and make you divest things without you having done anything wrong?
Right, Becky. You're setting up a group of people in Washington who are going to decide who should get to what size and how the economy should be handled from Washington. And if a company is large, that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. In fact, large is good in many ways. We need large financial houses that can follow our American firms around the world and can give us an international presence, and we need them to be strong. The issue, of course, is if a large firm overextends itself and gets into serious problems, at that point, the government should not be, and the American taxpayer should not be on the hook to bring that firm out of its problems. The firm should suffer whatever consequences the market forces on it. But we do need large firms, and we should not have language which says that we're going to have a group of people in Washington that are going to disassemble firms simply because they're too large. Where do we stop with that type of language? Do we go on to Walmart because they don't have unions? Do we go on to Coca-Cola because they have sugar in their drinks? I mean, it's an absurd concept, but it's basically this rampant pandering populism that's taken over Washington and essentially says that anything big is bad.
But Senator, they make cars that can go 300 miles an hour, right? You can't sell those and drive them on the road. It would not be safe.
Well, you can sell them. You just can't drive them at 300 miles an hour.
Yeah.
In fact, I imagine Joe has a Lamborghini or something that does 180 miles an hour.
In his dreams, he does.
I don't work for Goldman. Sorry, I don't know.
But I'm talking about safeguards, though. I mean, there is a such thing as a reasonable safeguard, right?
Oh, absolutely. We need to restructure the financial regulatory atmosphere. There's no question about that. But we've got to be careful we don't do another Sarbanes-Oxley, where we essentially force people offshore and we undermine our competitiveness in the international arena. There should be two goals for us here. The first goal is that we address systemic risk. So we do as much as we can in the area of regulatory action, which will allow us to anticipate, to the extent we can, a systemic risk situation and take action to try to correct it before it occurs. And the second goal should be, as we're doing that, as we're restructuring our financial systems, make sure that America remains the most competitive and the best place to create capital and get credit. Because that is really, if you look at the uniqueness of the American economy, one of the key uniquenesses of our economy and the fact that we are so resilient is the fact that you can get capital reasonably easily and you can get credit at a reasonable price. And we can't do something that fundamentally harms that structure. And so I do strongly support re-regulation and restructuring our regulatory atmosphere. I just hope we don't overreact out of anecdotal events such as what we're seeing today.
So, Senator, what would you do about the derivatives market specifically? I mean, what is it about the derivatives markets looks to be dysfunctional? What is it that you would do to influence that?
Well, dysfunctional is too broad a term to apply to the derivatives market, but there are significant improvements that you could do in the derivatives market. One, to the extent you want more transparency and you want more liquidity and margin behind the counterparty. So basically using clearinghouses more effectively is one step. If you've got a legitimate customized product for a commercial end user, they should be exempt from a clearinghouse. But everything else, to the extent it can go on a clearinghouse, should go on a clearinghouse. The issue in derivatives are when do you shift from clearinghouse to exchanges? That's really where we're having most of the debate right now.
Hey, Judd, so what do you see happening? They don't make the bill even stronger and they turn some of the 41, or they make it they go for broke and put a lot more stuff in it and still try and just get one guy.
I think that we have almost agreement on too big to fail with the Corker-Warner language, on derivatives with the work that Senator Jack Reed and I have done, on the consumer agency with the work that Richard Shelby and Senator Dodd are doing, and on the issue of how we're going to reorganize the chairs on the deck of regulation through the work that all of us have been doing. And I think we're basically on the cusp of a major comprehensive agreement if we would just stand back, think calmly, and not overreact, and be a little mature about this approach rather than political.
Well, now with the Goldman case, we can make it a truly bipartisan bill, right? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
that I hope you are kidding.
He's not.
Senator, thanks for your time. Good to see you as always, Senator Judd Gregg.
My pleasure.
Out of the